Welcome, everyone, to the Kidney Korner. I'm your host, Craig, with Get in Position as it relates to your health. We have another great, exciting episode for all of you tonight. I'd like to welcome all of my currently dialysis patients, kidney patients on, as well as their caregivers. Tonight's show, we will be discussing, it has a lot to do with transplant, kidney transplant. And what most individuals do not understand, that there is a piece that involves finances. Now, I understand, and this month is the beginning and start of open enrollment as it relates to your insurance. I know Medicare, Medicaid, it's open enrollment season. It's that time. However, when individuals are looking to get evaluated to be placed on the kidney list or transplant list, a huge portion of that is finances. And we need to know and understand what programs, financial assistance programs are out there that are available to those individuals. It's very, very vital. Many of you know about my journey dealing with CKD, over 23 years dealing with CKD and being on dialysis, and then receiving a kidney transplant. That was a huge piece that I totally didn't have any idea as to, okay, I have insurance. I thought that was it. I thought that was the end all to be all. It would pay for everything. I was able to receive Medicare. Also, my spouse, my wife, her company insurance as well. So I thought I was just covered, that was it. I'm good to go. However, I was informed that that's not the case, because there are some expenses that if you're not prepared for, you would have to pay out of pocket. And those expenses could be very, very expensive at the time. So I have some great guests coming on. I would just ask that if you're viewing this, please share this with someone you know who is currently dealing with kidney disease, who is currently on dialysis, and they are looking to get evaluated to get on the kidney transplant list. This is some great information coming your way, and that's some of the things that we do here on the Kidney Korner. So without further ado, we got a lot of ground to cover tonight. I want to bring on our guest for this evening. First up is, she's not new to the Kidney Korner. She was on one episode where we discussed and talked about the evaluation process. And when we did the episode, we had a lot of other guests on. We had a nurse, a RN, talking about that process of evaluation. We had another good friend of mine from UNOS that they collect all of the data for all of the transplant organs, and she shared some data with us. And we also had a social worker on with us. However, the reason why I'm bringing her back is because we felt as though, when we look back at the episode, we felt as though she didn't get enough time, because she had a lot of information for us, and she just didn't get enough time. So welcome to the Kidney Korner, LaTanya Patterson. Welcome, LaTanya.
Hi, everyone. How are y'all doing this evening?
Welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and y'all?
Doing good. We're doing good. It's good to see you.
You too.
And thanks for coming back. Yeah.
Not a problem. Always willing to share information.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's most appreciative. And our next guest, a new friend to the Kidney Korner, and she's been a great help to me. And she's actually my social worker from my transplant facility from MUSC. She's my social worker. She helps me out a great deal. When I need some things done, when I have to go back to Charleston, she sets up because I have to stay overnight because we're coming from Atlanta. So she sets all of those things up. She helps me out with some other things with the American Kidney Foundation. She keeps me on point. So welcome to the Kidney Korner, Christy Malone. Welcome, Christy.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. How are you doing?
Can't complain. Just watching this hurricane.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
One after the other. I tell you, it's the year.
Yeah, it is the year, and it is also the season.
Yes.
It's hurricane season.
We have what, 3 more weeks of this? I think it's November 20th. December?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it goes all the way to December.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and you know, with this global warming, who knows? Because I believe it started early.
It did.
It started in July, I think.
June.
It started in June?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. So without further ado, let's start talking about some things. I want to start with Latanya. I want to start with you, Latanya. Latanya is with the Georgia Transplant Foundation. And I'll tell you this, the Georgia Transplant Foundation is a lifesaver, especially for those Georgia residents. If you are a Georgia resident, it's a lifesaver as it relates to financial assistance when it comes to transplant. And you all just don't handle kidney transplant, is that correct?
That is true. We help with any solid organ transplant recipient or, of course, candidate as well, who is either a resident of the state of Georgia or a resident of the U.S. who is being transplanted in Georgia. We do have one program that helps those who don't live in Georgia but are being transplanted in Georgia.
Okay. Because for a long time, I used to call it the Georgia Kidney Transplant Foundation.
We hear that a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I used to say that a lot, and then I was reading something, and I was like, "Oh, it's just transplant, just across the board." So Latanya, tell us about some of the things that your organization, what it does, what you guys do, and the services you provide.
Alrighty. Well, what we do at GTF is your transplant centers and doctors, they're going to save your lives. We try to make sure that you still have your livelihood. So we try to make sure that you never have to determine whether you're going to pay your bills this month or whether you're going to be able to afford your meds. We try to make sure that you are always able to have your insurance premiums covered because, of course, one of the best ways to make sure that you don't go into rejection is to make sure that you keep your insurance and can see your doctors regularly so they can keep your numbers in check. We offer evaluation assistance if you're at the beginning of your journey and you're a Georgia resident. We do help with you staying at your transplant center during the evaluation period, which for some like Mayo can be up to 5 days. So we know that's a bit of a budget cruncher, so we try to help with that. If you need dental clearance before you can be fully listed, we help with that. As I said, we do help with the insurance premiums. We help with medication assistance post-transplant, of course, including some full pay. There are some things you'll be on short-term immediately after transplant in certain cases, like Valsite, that can be very expensive, and we help with that. And then my personal program is the Transplant Fundraising Program, and we help you fundraise pre-transplant for your post-transplant needs. Anything from lodging after transplant to, of course, medication, insurance premiums, doctor office copays, things like that. We can help you to fundraise for so that you're not going to be negatively impacted financially after your transplant.
Nice. So how does one get involved? Now, I know the process, but tell our viewers out there, what's the application process like, and who's actually eligible to receive these benefits?
All righty. We have two different, I guess you can call them buckets. We have our charitable giving branch and our transplant fundraising branch. The charitable giving branch, you would apply through your social worker at your transplant center. That covers your evaluation assistance, your dental assistance, insurance assistance, and medication assistance. So you would contact your social worker at your transplant center. If it is evaluation assistance, you may actually be able to contact your dialysis center social worker as well. But all the applications for those programs have to come through the transplant center social worker. Yes. But you can find out more information about all of our programs at gatransplant.org. Now, the 4 programs I just mentioned are for Georgia residents only. It does not matter where you're being transplanted, but you do need to be a Georgia resident. The Transplant Fundraising Program has 2 separate sides. The matched accounts, which are for Georgia residents only, no matter where you're being transplanted. And they offer a match of up to $10,000. You have 1 year to raise those funds that are eligible for the match. But it helps you to fundraise to make sure you cover your meds. That's the main focus of the matched account, is to make sure you always have your meds and your insurance premiums are always paid. Our unmatched program is open to those who are being transplanted in the state of Georgia but are not Georgia residents, as well as, of course, Georgia residents being transplanted anywhere else who do not have the same financial need as those in the matched account. Let's see. One of the biggest things that I love about both the transplant fundraising program sides is that we offer what we call direct bill pharmacy options, which we have 3 pharmacies. Let's put it like this. We have 3 overreaching pharmacies, and then 1 pharmacy we work with in Charleston, the MUSC pharmacy, and 1 pharmacy in Jacksonville, Florida at Mayo Clinic called Osteen's, where they can send us your invoices for your pharmaceutical bills, and we pay them directly. Here in the rest of the program, let's put it like that, you would have access to either Community or Walgreens Pharmacy, Synergen RX, or Encompass RX. And those pharmacies will actually send you your meds to your door and then bill your insurance and your TFP account, so you never have to pay out of pocket.
Okay. Let's go back for just a second. And you mentioned the Georgia match program.
Mm-hmm.
And that's strictly for Georgia residents, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's strictly for Georgia residents. Explain how that works, because what I know about the program is that, yes, you mentioned you had 1 year to raise funds. So individuals who are seeking a transplant and seeking to get into this program, do you guys provide like once they're approved, right? They have to be approved first, right? They have to go through some vetting. Is that correct?
Right. Well, the application is actually available at our website, gatransplant.org, under the Transplant Fundraising Program.
Mm-hmm.
You just scroll down and click on Learn More. But once you've applied and your application's been reviewed, we verify that you are listed for transplant or an appropriate candidate for transplant at one of the transplant centers. And then we would offer you the matched account. Once you are fully enrolled, you are also offered the chance to open up a TFP website through which you can fundraise online. We offer workshops. In fact, we have one tomorrow where we teach you some of the basics of how to fundraise. We are still focused a little bit more on online fundraising, just because y'all are immunocompromised and COVID is still out there, no matter what anybody may tell you.
Yes.
So it's just safer to keep, I don't want to say to keep everybody more contained, but it is a lot safer. And honestly, it can be a lot more fruitful because you can reach more people if you have the website, as well as if you're doing your church base or your, your community based fundraising.
Right. Okay. Because today I was doing a lobby visit at my former dialysis center, and I was explaining to them about your program. I was really bragging on your program, and so that's key about the match when you're a Georgia resident.
Yes.
Being able to match up to $10,000.
Up to $10,000, and it is a dollar for dollar match. The National Organization Help Hope Live, which used to be NTAF, does have a somewhat similar program. However, they only match if you raise the full $10,000. We don't do that, y'all. If you raise $5, we match $5. If you raise 5,000, we match 5,000. If you raise the full 10, we match the full 10. So
Wow.
It is.
Wow.
It's a lot easier for y'all.
I hope folks get that. Dollar for dollar. That's huge. That's really, really huge. And that's awesome. I do know that the other program, so you said something that you have to be on a list to qualify, or
you have to be considered an appropriate candidate. So that means you have to be through your evaluation at your transplant center and not considered not a candidate, basically. They have to be willing to list you actively for you to be eligible for our program. Because part of the thing about GTF's TFP program is, okay, I know we've all seen it happen where you see somebody on the news who say they're fundraising for a cancer diagnosis or they're fundraising for this other health crisis. And unfortunately, they're not really sick. They don't know anybody who actually is sick. One of the benefits of the TFP program is it allows donors, people who are giving to those in the program, the chance to know that, yes, we have verified with the transplant center that this person is fundraising for their post-transplant needs. They are actually actively listed or will be listed as soon as they meet the requirement the transplant center sets. And the funds cannot be used miscellaneously. They can only be used for their post-transplant medical needs. Those are reassurances that a lot of donors, it helps them to be willing to give, and it helps them to be willing to give more because they do know that, okay, it's not just going to go, I'm not being taken for a ride. I'm not being scammed. So that provides donors a level of comfort.
Okay. Let me ask you this question, because I recall when I was applying, there was some issues where someone did not. I don't know if it was a social worker at a facility. It was a piece of information that you all needed. And when you called me or you emailed me. And I said, because of the type of patient that I am, right? I typically dot all my I's and cross all of my T's and make sure it even if it wasn't my responsibility, I make sure that's just the project manager in me, right? So it was missing, and I said, well, you should have received that a while ago. I said, give me one moment and I will contact that person. You should receive it by close of business. And you did, in fact. So what I'm alluding to, my question is, how often do you see when those types of things happen that people don't respond or comply? And, what's the process? Do you give them, is it 3 strikes you're out, or how long does a person have, or how often have you seen that?
Well, it does depend on the social worker or the financial coordinator. Sometimes it can take a little longer. Sometimes people, I don't want to call it jumping the gun. I would say they are super proactive and they apply very early in their evaluation evaluation stage. So, if you apply, like you've had 2 appointments and you've still got 6 more to go. And of course, for some people, those appointments are stretched out over time, especially when you're talking about making sure that you have, heck, if you're a woman, you have to have your gyno appointment, you have to have your mammogram, you have to have all these things in place. Well, if you apply very early in the process and I reach out to the financial coordinators and they don't have an answer for me, then sometimes they can forget. And if you call me, I will poke them, usually by email, because that's just, I'm not gonna lie, y'all see this gray hair. I'm old school. I like putting everything in writing. If I call them, they may forget, and then they're like, "Well, I don't remember you said." Nope, I emailed you, so do I know I have a record?
Right.
I blame the gray hair, but I've always been this way. So,
Hey.
but yeah. So sometimes you have to poke them. Sometimes I have to poke them. I will say this: I am very bad about closing a file. I give chance after chance after chance. I have some files that I got literally in January, and I'm still waiting on them to send me driver's license or insurance cards. And I'll just, every now and then, I'll shoot them another email reminding them I'm still waiting on them. Wow. Partially is because I know that sometimes transplant recipients are on, transplant candidates are on medications that can create brain fog a little bit. Transplant candidates are, especially like if you're a liver candidate, you are very susceptible to having what I call brain fog, just because if your levels get off and your MELD score shoots up, you can forget a lot of stuff. And I never want to be the thing that stops someone from receiving their transplant. I actively try to make sure that them not having their TFP account open like the transplant center wants them to is never going to be the reason they don't get their transplant.
Gotcha. Wow. You're very gracious. I'll tell you that. You're very gracious and kind. Thank you for that.
Look, health crisis is scaring me. I figure as long as I'm nice to y'all, the Lord might keep me healthy.
Gotcha.
I'm not helping him in that situation at all.
Yeah, because one of the things that and the only reason why I brought that question up is because I saw a lot and understand my perspective is from a patient perspective. And I took my health very seriously. And again, I needed things done. I needed it done. And this is a great segue. I'm going to get to Christy coming up next to hear from her, just to segue into what she does. She sent me an email because the American Kidney Fund, they needed to do, they needed information about where's your income now, that paperwork, and so on and so forth. She sent it. It was due in September. She was so proactive. She sent it to me months, way before then. And I emailed her back. I said, okay, you should hear from me in another week or so. She was like, Craig, relax. We got it till September. It was early, like summertime. That's just the type of person I am. And I know that people can get very, very lax. I do hear you about medications that individuals take. and it can fog your brain a little bit, but I'm sorry, folks. There's no excuse. It's unacceptable. From January for me, that's just me. You know, if you want this, and this is a great benefit, people, we got to get the paperwork in. And even if you don't understand something, you know, I was going to say pick up the phone, but yeah, pick up your smartphone, email, text, something, say something, ask questions if you don't understand something. But I want to go to Christy right now. And Christy, just explain to us, because we're talking about financial assistance programs for kidney transplant and post-transplant individuals, and you're kind of on the other side of it per se, and just explain to the viewers what it is you actually do, because your signature, your salutation, your signature on your email says, it specifically says Kidney Transplant Social Worker, if I can recall. So if you can just explain that and introduce what it is you actually do at MUSC.
Yeah, so I'm kind of full circle. I started off my social work career at a dialysis clinic. I was there for about 4 years. I've always been interested in transplant. At the time, South Carolina just had one transplant center, MUSC in Charleston, and no jobs became available. I spent about 3 years in the ER, and then lo and behold, a transplant position became available at MUSC. And so what social workers do, and not just specifically with kidney, but for any organ transplant, is not only do we want to make sure everyone is a medical candidate for the surgery, but a social candidate as well. And a part of that is making sure someone is financially prepared for this surgery, this life-changing surgery, among other things. And so we will do a psychosocial assessment where we just ask questions about support system. We talk about expenses and insurance, and then their readiness to be prepared in every aspect, mentally, socially, financially. We see patients before the transplant.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're on the wait list, we do a reevaluation once a year just to see if anything's changed. And then once you get your transplant, you see a social worker in the hospital. And the way MUSC works in Charleston, you have a different social worker when you get to the hospital, and then for 90 days, and then you come back to me. So you saw Lily in the hospital. She was with you for the first 90 days, and then you came back to me. So one of the things that we do in terms of financial readiness is letting everybody know what the resources are out there. One is definitely the Georgia Transplant Foundation. When I see that Georgia address, I get so excited. I ask them if they know about it. I tell them about the match program. I let them know about the different programs that GTF has to offer. Once a year, Ingal and Rebecca, who work with GTF, will do a virtual webinar with the MUSC and the transplant team, because I'm sure they may have programmatic changes that we need to be aware of as well. I talk about insurance. One of the things that people do not realize or know is that your Medicare does eventually go away at some point after transplant. So if you are receiving Medicare only because you had to start dialysis, they call that ESRD Medicare, end-stage renal disease Medicare. And
Mm-hmm.
so if the only reason why you're entitled to Medicare was because of dialysis, then that Medicare goes away 3 years later. A lot of people also don't know that their disability check ends eventually at some point after transplant. If you qualified for disability only because you started dialysis and you have no other medical conditions that prevents you from going back to work, that check is cut off around a year and a half after transplant. I didn't even know that as a dialysis social worker. And so
Wow.
those are the things that people should know when they're getting into this, because they need to be ready. I mean, you're talking about people who may not have worked in 4, 5, 6 years. Um, I know that the GTF program has a jumpstart program. So every application will say, is this person appropriate to refer? I say, yes, let's get back to work. Let's live our life. Let's hit that play button. And then we also go into expenses. I want to be as transparent as possible with every individual I come across. Within my first couple months at MUSC, which was about 4 years ago, a patient was on dialysis for 10 years and not one referral to transplant, and he was only 40. And I said, why
Wow.
haven't you been referred a long time ago, like 10 years ago? And this just stuck with me. He said, I always thought that transplant was for rich people. And
Wow.
and that just hurt me because no one spent the time to educate him. And then he had that thought for 10 years. Um, so, I want to know what their backstory is, and, letting them know what they're getting into. And one of the things that we do at MUSC is we don't ask for proof of fundraising or proof of savings. There are some transplant centers out there that want to see that money is in your bank account. They have a fundraising goal and they want you to submit a copy of your bank statement. I remember when I worked at the dialysis clinic, some of the patients would be like, "Can you fax my bank account to this transplant center?" And I was like, "Huh? We don't do that." I mean, I basically say when you get called in, you've got to be able to, be prepared to spend the money on a hotel. Um, at least for 7 nights is what we tell people. We do work closely with the hotels in our area to work with our patients to give a significant discounted rate. Right now, the lowest we can get with some of the hotels is $79 a night. So that's something that we try. I also let patients know, and not a lot of people know this, South Carolina Medicaid covers the lodging expense. It's the only insurance that I know of so far that will full out cover it, not reimburse, but cover it. So South Carolina Medicaid recipients do have that lodging benefit. Yeah, and I always encourage people to call their insurance company to see if they offer any reimbursement benefits for lodging and travel expenses. So some of your Medicare Advantage plans offer reimbursement for travel and lodging. A lot of people who are still working, those employer insurances will offer reimbursement. Again, South Carolina Medicaid is the only one that will pay for it up front. And then again, as a part of me being transparent with everyone I come across, when I do come across someone who's out of state, not just from Georgia, but any out of state recipient, if they have that state Medicaid, we can't bill out of state Medicaid. We can only bill Medicare. Medicare is good anywhere, but out of state Medicaid, we cannot bill. So I let people know that you will get that 20% copay after all is said and done. I actually am working with a Georgia resident right now who isn't used to getting bills because she's got Medicare and Medicaid. And so I had to tell her, well, you're getting bills from us because we can't bill your Georgia Medicaid. So I'll let people know that, because that, may make a difference in their decision with whether or not they want to pursue out of state transplant. And that's completely fine. That's their right. I had an individual who is a North Carolina resident, and we have a shorter wait list at MUSC compared to other facilities. And so we tend to get some out-of-state people. And she had the option of getting transplanted with us very, very quickly, or waiting a couple years in North Carolina and then pretty much having that full coverage because we couldn't bill her North Carolina Medicaid. I tell people, try to just think of it as living in Charleston, the hotel for 7 nights. We are located downtown Charleston, so you do have to pay for parking. If I tell people, if you have a handicap decal and that person's going to be with you, bring it, because then parking is for free downtown. We have partnered with our Meals on Wheels, and they will deliver frozen meals to the hotel for the patient and the caregiver wherever they're staying at, free of charge for the entire time they're going to be here. And then I try to get creative with patients with how to save, because a lot of times we're talking about, people who have fixed limited income, and, it may be difficult for them to fundraise. So what I'll do is, do you pay for your Medicare premium? Yeah, it's being deducted from my Social Security check. Ask your dialysis social worker about the American Kidney Fund. If you qualify for that assistance, that's around $175 a month you could be saving away towards this transplant and towards the expenses. And I tell them, you're not used to getting that money anyway, so just pretend that you're not even receiving it.
Right.
And I'm not too familiar with a lot of Georgia programs, but I know there's a program in the state of South Carolina to where if you financially qualify, they'll cover your premium too. So little things like that. And just for us as social workers, knowing about the resources that are out there, so individuals can, cut those corners to help make this possible. But I mean, I don't even think in my 4 years here that we've ever denied someone for financial reasons. I just always feel like you're going to make it happen. People are a lot more resourceful and a lot savvy when motivated to get this to work. And again, you have time to save and fundraise. You're on a wait list for a couple years. It may not happen right away. So there is some time to get it together. The centers that do ask for proof of savings, life happens. You may have an emergency, you may have to spend that money. So just because you have that money today doesn't mean you're going to have it, 6 months from now.
Right. And those things that you discussed about the Medicaid, it wasn't Medicaid premiums, but it was just receiving a bill for Medicaid, right?
Are you talking about
Out of state?
Out of state?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Medicare covers 80%. So you go to a doctor's office, you have labs done, Medicare covers 80%. A secondary insurance usually picks up the rest and covers the 20%. So for those who have out-of-state Medicaid, we can't bill that. So they're left with a 20% copay. And for those folks who aren't used to receiving a bill, they're going to receive a bill.
Gotcha. And with that said, if you're a Georgia resident and you sign up with GTF and you have to pay for that Medicaid expense, LaTanya, is this correct? This is where GTF would come in and pick up that expense?
Well, if you're post-transplant and you have, your matched account, then we can pay your premium. Honestly, with Medicare premiums, it is actually going to pretty much almost always be a reimbursement unless they send you the invoice that you have to send back with a check or money order.
Right.
Then we can pay that directly to them from your TFP account up to 3 months at a time. Same with any other insurance premiums.
Gotcha.
However, if they do the deduction from your check, then we just have to reimburse you, and we can do that up to 3 months back. So it's October. Sorry, my brain fritzed on what month it was.
Gotcha.
So we can do you'd have gotten your checks for the most part in October. So October, September, and August, we could reimburse you for those 3 months. So that's what we do for the insurance premiums. We either pay it directly to the vendor, to the insurance company, for up to 3 months at a time, or we pay it back to the client for up to 3 months at a time.
Gotcha. Okay. And those things that Christy talked about, if I was a Georgia resident and I was with GTF and I received my transplant at MUSC and I was on Medicaid and they sent me a bill, I would have to pay that bill out of pocket. However, would I be able to, and I'm in my post-transplant stage, I could put that on my reimbursement form? Is that something that I could do?
Yes, you can put it on your reimbursement form. And if you have a matched account, you can get reimbursed for up to $2,000 of that, or we can pay up to $2,000 of the bill to MUSC. But you would have to send us the invoice and tell us you need the check made payable to MUSC. If you pay it out of pocket, you just send us a copy of the receipt. We send you back your funds. If you have an unmatched account, however, if you raise over the $10,000 and then have extra, like let's say you raise $15,000, then you would then have $7,000 that could go towards doctor office co-pays, hospital copay, hospital bills, things like that, because you'd have $2,000 of the matched account funds, and then whatever you raise over is held to the unmatched guidelines.
So to me, it's a win-win. Like if you can't lose.
I have another way you can win too.
Okay.
If you do have if you're a Georgia resident being transplanted at one of those transplant centers that say you have to have a certain amount in savings, and let's say that we have some people who are very fortunate and can pay out of, just put the money there, show them, hey, I got this much money. Well, they could still have a life event that could make everything change. So the transplant centers are not necessarily in love with just random saving accounts as much as they are with people putting it into a TFP unmatched account, because then they know no matter what the life crisis this patient has, the funds are still going to be there. That's actually how our original program started when we just handled part of what NTAF did back in the day. Because we started that program. TFP in its current incarnation didn't start to 2007. Before that, we had our Access to Care program, which is much like our current unmatched accounts, in that we held money for you just so that the transplant centers knew that you had the funds. Because they did have people who, it's Georgia. Helene is not the first hurricane to hit us.
I got you.
And sometimes if something really bad happens and that money is sitting in the savings account at your local credit union, as much as you don't want to touch it, sometimes you may have to. So we started the Access to Care program to allow you to have those funds so the transplant center knows that it's there. In fact, some of those clients are still recouping those funds, because I just got one from an Access to Care client for Lisa today. I handle the TFP program. Lisa Carlotta, our director of finance, she handles the old accounts, the Access to Care accounts. So some of those people are still reaping the benefits of those accounts. And when I say, that those accounts, like, we don't have any Access to Care accounts that were started after January 1st of 2007.
Oh, wow.
So if they're Access to Care, they have still been, oh God, I'm going to math again, aren't I? So yeah, they've been in those accounts for over 14 years.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Talk about win-win.
Well, and to add to what you were saying earlier, LaTanya, and I tell people this, everybody's familiar with GoFundMe, but anyone can start a GoFundMe. Mm-hmm. So long lost sister who got wind that you need a transplant, she can start a GoFundMe and pocket that money. Yeah. So that's money that's not protected. And another thing I mentioned to individuals and caregivers is that technically GoFundMe is money that is countable income. So if you are receiving benefits on a state level, you're technically supposed to report that income. And if you did, that could make you over income and you would lose any benefits you may have.
Exactly. Whereas if you do have a GoFundMe and you put it into a TFP account, because there are people who, they're very familiar with GoFundMe, so they like the idea of using it. If they have a TFP matched account, they can put it in there and they get both, the TFP and the match. And best of all, it's not considered taxable income for our clients.
Wow.
So it would not affect their SSDI. It would not affect if they're on food stamps, if they're on Medicaid, it wouldn't affect any of it.
Okay, I get what you both are saying with the GoFundMe. That would be considered income.
Mm-hmm.
That would count as income if you do a GoFundMe.
Yep.
Wow.
So that could, if you were receiving, like LaTanya said, food stamps, Medicaid, again, technically you're supposed to report any income or any changes in income. Mm-hmm. And so if someone did, they would be at risk of losing Medicaid and food stamps, which is very valuable resources, as well as it being taxed.
Wow. Folks, if you're just now joining us, we are discussing financial assistance programs as it relates to transplant, kidney transplant, specifically getting evaluated, pre-transplant, post-transplant, how necessary it is vital to your survival to have the information regarding these programs here. And I thought I knew because I'm reaping the benefits of GTF. Again, I had to apply. I had to do my due diligence. I can remember LaTanya sending me some emails. All right, Mr. Mayor, you got 1 year. You got to raise those funds. You got 1 year. Get to it, right? And so I actually did it. And there's so many different ways that you can raise funds. Again, LaTanya, if you could just reiterate, you all have courses and classes on how or workshops, I should say,
yes,
to raise funds. I know for me, my background in production, video production, television, I did a video. And I actually got the permission from the manager at the time of the not transplant, but dialysis center to come in with my cameras. We made sure no one was in there, but I wanted to interview my nutritionist, my charge nurse, just to speak to what type of patient I was. And we were able to raise a significant amount with that. But LaTanya, speak to those workshops that you all have at Georgia Transplant Foundation.
Yes, we hold them every other month right now. They are available in person and through Zoom. You can find more information at gatransplant.org under Transplant Fundraising Program. But yeah, we offer workshops that show not just the application process and getting enrolled, but it gives you an idea on how to fundraise. We have things as simple as our golden ticket, which is the appeal letter, which is literally just a letter asking for help. I always say that if you are a kidney patient or a liver patient in an area that does partial liver transplant, you definitely want to include the information about living donors. When you're asking for help, you don't want to just ask for monetary help, because you never know. There are altruistic donors out there who may be willing to give just off getting an email from a friend. My sister actually is in the process of losing weight so that she can be evaluated as a living donor for a woman she served with 15, 20 years ago in the Army.
Wow.
So we'll see if it works, because we have food addiction issues. She is working very hard to try.
Okay, great. Awesome. Christy, I want to come back to you, and because it is open enrollment time. Speak to that a little bit. What's how, well, most individuals, if you've been dealing with this for a while, you should know about it. One of the things that I was talking to someone about this, that if things are working great, especially if you're on Medicare and you know you're about to get evaluated for a kidney transplant, one of the things that came up in the conversation was don't change anything. If everything's working for you, don't change anything. If you can talk about that, speak to that about open enrollment.
Yeah, that's kind of my motto. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So open enrollment begins October 15th and runs to December 7th, I think.
Yeah.
Open enrollment is typically around this time, the last 3 months of the year. And this is a time to where if you have traditional Medicare and you want to switch your plan, right now is the time to do so. Now, be careful because this is the time where people call and mail you, and I don't want anyone to get scammed. So you got to be very cautious with who's, hitting you up. But if you are unsatisfied with your Medicare plan, and if you want to look into an Advantage plan, right now is the season to change that plan. A couple things that I tell patients. One is before you switch your plan, make sure that all your doctors, your dialysis clinic, and transplant centers that you're interested in are in network with that plan. So again, I had mentioned earlier, anywhere takes traditional Medicare, but not everywhere takes a Medicare Advantage plan. So if you are looking to switch, call your doctors that you like to see, and you like that, that certain doctor you see back at home or the transplant facility you're getting worked up at, and make sure they're in network with the plan that you're considering to make the change. Some people want to join an Advantage plan because it'll include dental and vision. Traditional Medicare does not include dental or vision. Or they kind of want a cheaper premium, a bundle package. And again, that's fine. It's what you can afford for your premium and what works best for you for your health. If you have a Medicare Advantage plan right now, you're going to have to wait until, I believe, Medicare Advantage plan recipients' open enrollment is in the springtime. So right now is just the time for traditional Medicare recipients to change their plan. And in the springtime, it's for Medicare Advantage plans recipients to change.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I know that. I think the last time you were on, Latanya, you talked about how that creates a huge issue when individuals are seeking to get evaluated and they start tinkering with changing their plans and so on and so forth. I can't remember what you talked about. What was there a few situations that you ran into?
Yes. Unfortunately, if you are in the evaluation process and you change your insurance, it can kind of, I don't want to say, we'll say upend. You may have to go through some different things again, especially financial concerns, because then they have to weigh everything against your new insurance. So it can give you some setbacks. I've had a few clients who we were waiting on a verification and they found they got a call. I remember one specifically got a phone call. It just sounded too good for them to not do it. Thankfully, it wasn't a scam.
Oh,
It wasn't. It was a real insurance company, but it upended everything. They had to almost completely do every financial aspect of their evaluation again.
Wow.
Because the coverage was just so different from what they had previously had. They ended up previously, they did not have a fundraising requirement. They were just going to fundraise just as a preemptive measure. After the new insurance, they had a fundraising requirement at their transplant center.
Wow.
So that made it far more dire. They had to fundraise, and they had, a shorter amount of time because they needed to be listed.
Wow.
Kidney patients, they can get listed, they can get enrolled in the TFP program, and they usually have the full year to fundraise just because of wait times.
Right.
And because there are things like dialysis that can make sure that you can, function while you're waiting. Other organs don't necessarily have that leeway. If they're listed, they need to get their funds in ASAP so that they can get transplanted ASAP. As literally, if you are a heart patient and you have a requirement, I will hound you. I will hound you in ways I just don't have to do kidney patients.
Okay.
But it's not just me. It is also going to be your transplant center financial coordinator. It is going to be your transplant center social worker, because we all know that when the call comes into them that they have an organ for you, you have to have every duck in a row to be able to get that organ.
Wow.
So, yeah, insurance is definitely a if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. Some of these things sound too good to be true because they are too good to be true.
And I know that there's one specific Advantage plan that for us is a bit difficult because they want testing every 6 months. They want everything up to date every 6 months. They require dental clearance. We don't necessarily require dental clearance for listing unless there is a medical reason that puts you at risk. But this particular plan does, and it aggravates the patients. And of course, they didn't know. Why would they know? And it's just to us, it's money every 6 months being spent on unnecessary testing.
Right. And I was going to mention that you brought up dental as well to those seeking a kidney transplant. That those things are very important. Individuals may feel as though, what does that have to do with my teeth? Listen, it's all connected. It's all connected, folks. That dental, your teeth, bacteria, everything, it's connected. And you really want to get that out the way. Just do it. Go to your dentist. Make sure everything is okay. Get your x-rays done. Let them check everything. Because you definitely don't want to go back and do it when you get close. And it's one more thing they need. And next thing you know, that dentist office's calendar is booked, and you're pushed way out. So you definitely want to take care of that. That has a huge part to do with it. Just like the other tests that they require, colonoscopies, all of those things. I know you mentioned, LaTanya, before that you all have a financial assistance program as it relates to dental. Is that correct?
Yes, if it's the last thing you need if you need dental clearance, either from your insurance company or because of the transplant center requirements, then yes, we can help with dental.
Oh, wow.
It's a fee schedule, so you will have to find a dentist that agrees to what we're going to pay them. But if you're in the Atlanta area, we have a few that we have good relationships with.
Awesome. Oh, that was my next question. If you have relationships with a dentist, that's just a win-win. I'm that's what I'm hearing. It's just a win-win with GTF. You all were a godsend for me. I totally didn't have any idea. I can't remember the the social worker who told me about you all, because they would definitely be on the Christmas card list for me. So, because I definitely appreciate you all. Christy, one thing I wanted to get with you about is you mentioned the American Kidney Fund, their program. Are there any other programs out there? And I know you're dealing with South Carolina, Charleston, but to your knowledge, do you know of any, like, does what's that, the National Kidney Fund or Foundation? That's what they're called?
Yeah, NKF, National Kidney
Yeah,
Foundation. I have had no success as a transplant social worker or a dialysis social worker with any assistance from them. They do offer a mentorship program, but the American Kidney Fund, they will offer, if you qualify, to cover your premium. And that isn't just your Medicare premium. If you're still working, and for those who work, that health insurance is taken out of your check, they will reimburse you for that portion that's being taken out of your check. If you're on your spouse's insurance and they work, they will reimburse for that as well. For people who have to stop working because of dialysis, when you stop working, you're offered COBRA. No,
right.
I can't afford COBRA. COBRA is like a $500-$600 premium a month. Well, the American Kidney Fund, again, if you qualify, will cover that premium so you can keep that insurance. So they do help with health insurance premiums outside of Medicare. Once a year, if you qualify, they will give you a $200 debit card that you can spend on transportation, medications, and that's even pre-transplant too. So that's for folks who are on dialysis. Every calendar year, you can qualify for that debit card. And then after transplant, you can submit an application to continue receiving that for 5 years after your transplant. Right now, anytime there's a natural disaster, they tend to open up their program a little more to help those affected. So right now, because of Hurricane Helene, and they're expecting, of course, Milton to hit the Florida residents hard, they're offering a one-time $250 debit card. So, it's a little, but a little goes a long way, especially when you're starting from scratch or nothing. Another a program that has helped one of my patients that I actually just found out about is the American Organ Transplant Association, AOTA. They actually have been paying for a bus ticket for one of my patients to get to his clinic appointments. So he's a Georgia resident. He was approved. GTF helped with lodging. They helped with mileage. But then he was under unfortunate circumstances where he no longer had a car. He had no one to bring him back and forth to his appointments. And I discovered, that AOTA covers Greyhound bus tickets. It's, of course, riding a bus is not the most convenient thing, but he takes that. It's free transportation. GTF puts him in a hotel. He takes a little shuttle to MUSC, and he's just so grateful for everything that has come his way. And then another fundraising organization is CODA. That's the Children Organ Transplant Association. They typically help individuals that are younger than 21 years old. But if you are diagnosed with kidney disease under the age of 21, or if you have a single genetic disorder such as polycystic or Alport syndrome, you can fundraise through them as well. I haven't worked with them really too much, since they're mostly for our pediatric population. But the feedback I get is that they're really helpful. And when I found out that they will help kidney patients with Alport syndrome, or if someone was diagnosed under the age of 21, I make sure to share their information as well, just because I've heard really good feedback. Like Latanya mentioned earlier, Help Hope Live is another fundraising organization, but they're really only interested in working with individuals who are capable of raising thousands and thousands of dollars, which isn't the reality.
Gotcha. Let's go back for a minute. You said something that really caught my attention. You said there was a program. I'm not sure if it was the AOTA that would help individuals if they're on their spouse's insurance, and they would pay for the spouse's premiums. Did I hear you correctly?
So the American Kidney Fund will pay for your part of what's being deducted from your spouse's check. So if I was on my husband's insurance, I would have to get a breakdown from HR to show what my portion would be. And then once it's approved, they submit a check.
Okay. I need to talk to you about that. I'm serious. I need to talk to you about that. I never knew that.
Yep.
I never knew that.
Yep. Yeah. So it's much more than just helping with Medicare premiums. Again, it's any health insurance premium if you're on your spouse or if you were offered COBRA through your job. And it's not just one. So I've seen people who are getting help with, they still have COBRA, and then they're also getting help with their Medicare premium too. So it's not just one that they'll help with.
Okay. How far do they go back?
I would actually have to talk to them about.
Yeah, you need to have a conversation because
we'll connect.
Yeah, we definitely will connect on that. I never knew that.
Yeah.
What do I need to do on my end? Because I'm pretty sure, because I see what comes in the mail.
Yeah.
Right. And there are breakdowns, and I mean, these envelopes are very, very thick, especially with because how it works is with end-stage renal failure, and if you're on Medicare, if you have Medicare is the primary, and let's say for instance Blue Cross Blue Shield, if your spouse has that, that's the secondary. And so what I've seen are these envelopes with the breakdowns of my portion, because I'm the only one that's like, she has her, my wife has her appointments and so on and so forth, but my stuff is like novels, like they're this thick. I mean, yeah, we need to talk about that, Christy. Yeah, we need to get on top of that. Yeah, let me chop that down.
I'm your social worker for life, so you have me forever.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Let me just
even if you're 10 years out from your surgery.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Schedule with Christy, aka got it. All right, so we'll get with you on that. Latanya, GTF has an event coming up here in Georgia on the 19th. Talk about that. That event.
Okay. Around Georgia Transplant Foundation let me start that sentence over again. Sorry, y'all. Georgia Transplant Foundation offers events around the state that are education events. So we often have that social workers speak. We have dermatologists speak, because we know that your post-transplant meds can be interesting with your dermatology. So we have people there who can talk about those. We have people who talk about being 25 years post-transplant and what that looks like for them. We call those people our faces of hope. So we have a Tearings and Transplant event coming up Saturday, October 19th. So not this coming Saturday, but the one after. It is being held at the Peachtree Christian Church here in Atlanta. And it will allow you to hear from mental wellness psychologists who can help with, some of the things that you're going through. That just gives you they just give you an idea of coping mechanisms. Because even if you are a relatively healthy person, ESRD is not, heck, just sitting on dialysis chairs for 4 to 5, 6, 7 hours a day takes its mental toll. So this time we're offering mental wellness for transplant patients, our Faces of Hope. This year we have a kidney donor. So that'll be fun. We've never had a living donor before speak. We also have our Jumpstart Job Fair, which Christy mentioned our Jumpstart program earlier. It's our back to work program. It helps you with plugging holes in your resumes after 10 years, getting up to date on new skills. We had one gentleman when Aussie first started with us who had not worked in so long. He had trouble with the application processes that are in place now versus, how it used to be. You go and you fill out a paper application, you hand them your resume, you shake somebody's hand. Well, it's not like that anymore.
No.
So our Jumpstart program is really good with helping with that. And then we are also going to have breakout sessions where you can go and hear from a nephrologist and a lung doctor and a cardiologist. So it just depends on your need for that session. And then, of course, we have what we used to call GTF 101, which talks about all the programs and services we offer. Registration is due by October the 11th, and you can register at our website, gatransplant.org, or the exact link is on the screen now. Thank you.
Awesome event. I attended one of those events, and it was just phenomenal. The speakers there, just awesome, just phenomenal. And again, it's not just for kidney transplants, it's transplant, period. And you will learn a lot. You will meet some interesting people, a lot of great people. I plan to be there that Saturday. There are a few individuals that I am mentoring today, helping them through this process, this journey that they're on dialysis, seeking a kidney transplant. And I have them registered to attend to get that information and that knowledge. So that is just awesome and wonderful. I'm looking forward to that event. Christy, are there, because I know you're in Charleston, South Carolina, are there any events coming up there in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, so we have the National Kidney Foundation. They do kidney walks once a year. We have that coming up November 9th. That's going to be at the James Island County Park. And it's not just transplant patients, it can be dialysis patients as well. So just getting it together and doing that. And then I also want to let everybody know that we here in South Carolina are always so envious of GTF and the services that they provide our patients, that within the past year, our social worker who's at the MUSC in Lancaster and one of the providers has started a grassroots effort to create the South Carolina Transplant Foundation and replicate it after GTF and have something available for the Carolina residents. So it's in its very early stages. They're doing some fundraising, and we can only hope and dream that we get to be as big as GTF one day. But it's such a great service that they provide that we hope to be able to do the same thing for our residents. Up until 4 years ago, we were the only transplant program, and now there's 3 in the state. So I think there's definitely that need.
Okay. Wow. That's
Awesome.
awesome. That is awesome. I think it deserves another round of applause there. Um, wow. That's listen, GTF, you guys are trendsetters. I'm telling you, you guys are trendsetters. Because as far as I know, there's no other program in the US that does what you guys do.
Not
So
yet, but hopefully soon.
yeah,
Right?
hopefully soon there'll be another one, but you know they got to take it from you guys. Um, one thing you mentioned, Christy, is that you guys have a kidney walk on the 9th.
Yep, November 9th is the Kidney Walk at James Island County Park. It's at 9 a.m.
Okay, I have my kidney versary clinic on the 8th.
No, yeah, I just got confirmation for your lodging, so I know that you'll be here.
I will be there.
Yeah, let's walk together.
I'm with that.
Okay.
How do I sign up? Or you'll take care of that for me? What's
Yeah, I'll send you the link. You just have to register on NKF's page.
Okay, I will definitely do that. I'm asking it live. I may be putting you on the spot, but I don't know, Christy, but I know we got lodging for one night. Can we get
Oh, don't look at me. You know that's on gel.
Yeah,
oh, that's on jail. That's not
that's
you.
the other side.
We'll talk about that.
We'll get something figured out.
We'll get something figured out. But I didn't know that, and so I definitely want to. That'll be my first kidney walk post-transplant. I definitely want to do that.
Okay.
And be a part of that. That's awesome. Any closing remarks? I think we covered everything. Woo, that was a lot for me. I thought I knew some things, but no, I'm gonna rewatch this and pull out those jewels. And I need to know, and I'll probably talk to you, Latanya, at the event on the 19th, because I just became a kidney health coach through American Kidney. Is it American Kidney Fund? Yes, American Kidney Fund. So I want to see about some mentoring programs at GTF as well. It's time to get involved. It's time to go to work, help some other folks. My thing for me is to battle and fight the diseases as much as I possibly can. Help those that's currently going through it to get a transplant, walk them through some things. This financial assistant podcast episode tonight was just wonderful. Great information. It's to me, everything is just a win-win. Man, it's just a win-win all over. Are there any closing remarks? Christy, I will start with you.
So I guess I'll just leave everybody with this. The answer is always going to be no if you don't ask. So feel free to give us a call. MUSC Charleston. You can ask to speak to Christy. I'm one of the social workers there, or a social worker, but you can feel free to ask for me specifically. Don't be embarrassed to ask. Don't be embarrassed to reach out. Everyone's in the same situation. We're in this together, and anything that you guys need, I'm at your disposal.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us on the Kidney Korner. You can always come hang out on the corner with us. Latanya, any closing remarks?
GTF is here to help. If you're a Georgia resident, we can definitely help you with anything from evaluation assistance up to the TFP program. You can reach us at Our main line number is 770-457-3796. So 770-457-3796. Our website is gatransplant.org. You can find out all the information about any upcoming events, anything that we are doing around the state, to bring education to our client base. And we do also offer the Mentor Project. Don't forget about that one, where we train those people who are at least 6 months post-transplant who want to give back. And we help them learn how to become an appropriate mentor that can go into dialysis centers or into the transplant centers and really kind of walk people through the process.
Great. Awesome. Wonderful. I just wanted to know from anyone who is watching or viewing this, do you have any questions? Any questions for our special guests? Was it something that you heard, something that you picked up, something that you need to know? Any questions? Just give them a minute. Ladies, this was awesome. Thank you so much again on behalf of myself, the Kidney Korner crew, production crew, and the Get in Position Foundation. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for being with us tonight. I see we don't have any questions. That's fine. We'll probably get some when they review it and go back and listen to it. And so thank you guys so much. I'm going to send you back to the green room where there's snacks and drinks and everything back there. So just hang out for me just a second. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you guys in just a minute. Thank you so much. All right. You all heard it. Wow. That's so much information. I had a great time. I learned a great deal. I'm going to go back and watch this. You all can view it on our YouTube channel. Hopefully that's where you're viewing it right now at www.getinposition21.org. You should see it scrolling at the bottom of your screen. You can also email us at getinposition21@gmail.com. If you missed anything, if you wanted more information, if you thought of a question afterwards, email us. We can get it to our special guests. They can answer that for you. And so thanks for joining us. I had a great time. Again, be mindful. Our next podcast is scheduled for October 22nd. We will have nephrologist Dr. Shakur Kumar coming on, one of my former nephrologists. I'm real excited about him coming on as well. We're going to be talking about CKD, chronic kidney disease, how it happens, preventative care, taking care of your kidneys, what happens when you go to see a nephrologist, what is a nephrologist. So he'll be here with us, joining us on the Kidney Korner on Tuesday, the 22nd. So as always, get in position as it relates to your health. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.
Join us on the Kidney Korner Podcast on Tuesday, October 22nd at 7 p.m. with our special guest, Dr. Shrikar Kumar, a nephrologist with Southern Crescent Nephrology. We will discuss intricate details of treating kidney disease and preventative care regarding kidney failure awareness. You can interact with us and our special guests by asking questions on our YouTube channel. Remember, get in position as it relates to your health. Thank you for watching.